Hey, folks, welcome to InTheMoneyStocks.com's intraday analysis video brought to you by the creators of proprietary price, pattern, and time methodology. Learn the PPT strategies and profit for life. My name is Gareth Soloway, Chief Market Strategist here at InTheMoneyStocks.com. All right, guys, into the video we go today. The markets are hovering around the flat line. We opened sharply higher today. Well, not sharply higher, but a little bit higher, and we saw some pretty solid selling to the downside. Now you're making a bearish pattern, but a bearish pattern, remember, is neutral to upside action. So really from this low pivot, you're now retracing and going sideways and floating back up. My guess is by the end of the day, we might come into this little cross section of this pivot line from yesterday's high and this upsloping trend line, which if I zoom out, actually connects through multiple past days' lows. So you've actually broken that trend line earlier today. Now you may be retracing to that level. Okay, and again, this is all on extremely light volume. And when I say light volume, folks, we're talking about today 53 million, and we're almost at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. So again, in terms of volume, that is ridiculous. That is so light. It's almost hard to even understand how it could be that light on a Tuesday. Granted, it's the summer months, I understand that, but we're in the midst of earnings season. You had Texas Instruments last night along with Netflix, and today we have Apple after the bell. Maybe the volume's a little bit lighter as everyone's waiting for Apple AAPL to report, but still, this light is a little on the absurd side. Yes, last week we talked about this yesterday, but last week the volume in the market was the lightest for the course of that week in all of 2013. So you have to wonder: are people just on vacation, or do people just not even want to trade and they're content to let the Federal Reserve just float the market higher? That seems to be the case right now with the SPY up 7 cents on the day. Just this simple light volume float. As long as the light volume sticks around, this market can, in theory, continue to float higher exponentially. All right, granted, it's only going up 10, 20, 30 cents a day, but listen, it does that for a year. That's a lot of action to the upside. S&P 500's up half a point. Dow's up 50 points on the back of a couple key earnings reports there. And the Nasdaq's actually weaker today, down 10 points on the day. So, again, it's right around the flat line with the Dow up, Nasdaq down, S&P flat. And the leaders on the Nasdaq side, Google taking a little bit of a hit today, coming back in after a pretty substantial move up the last couple days from the earnings. That, again, stock has come down pretty drastically today, down 6.5 points. In addition, prior to earnings, Apple is trading down about $3. It's not down much, but there obviously is a little bit of concern here in terms of where this market could be headed. And again, if we flip over to the daily chart here, you can see I day traded it today. But you can see, again, it's hovering right on this key level. This is a very important level, this 420 level. As long as it stays above into the close on earnings, I have a slight factoring to the upside potential, which, again, is only, 60-40% chance of upside, which is not that much. But, again, I got to give it the benefit of the doubt just because it's above that 420 level going into earnings. So we'll see, again, how it plays out into earnings. I am curious to see if it gets below and gaps below this 420 level. The double bottom lows here are the likely target in the short term, and if it gets below that, you're talking about $360 target. So, I mean, there is potentially a lot of downside if earnings are poor today over the next few weeks in the market. All right, there are some key players I want to mention today. First of all, the Chinese small cap profitable plays are having very solid days. KNDI, let's take a look right here. Take a look, KNDI, which, again, these are all plays, and I want to make this clear, guys. Any of the Chinese profitable plays that have had big rallies in the past and big pops in the past that have come down, they're all getting a bid today. And I like these, again, because it's spec money. Speculative money seems to be looking for these type of plays. KNDI, I mentioned this morning at around the 445 to 450 level. It hit 485 at the highs of the day and is not that far off from there right now either. In addition, I'm keeping a close eye, and I actually picked up some shares of CLNT. I love this chart. You have the pivot high, pullback, and then look at this little base here that's building right on top of the trend line and the start to today's action. So I actually do like this CLNT quite a bit going into the next few days. Assuming the market doesn't collapse, I think this is probably a major outperformer in the next few days. All right, so those are just a couple small cap Chinese plays to keep an eye on. Another former runner that had a nice move today was SGOC. Take a look at this. Notice the sympathy here. Essentially, these are all the same charts. Big pops, pullbacks into moving averages, and then the pop up. And again, this stock was $1.67 per yesterday's close, hit a high of 202 today. That's basically a 20+% move off the lows from the close yesterday. So again, these are really hot right now. These are all profitable Chinese plays that are making these type of moves. A couple other plays out there are also getting a nice move. SCON, look at this. I mean, same chart again. Big pop here, consolidation down, and look at the size of that pop today. That's a big move of over 20% as well. So again, keep an eye on these. These seem to be in play. Again, as long as spec money is still available out there, which it seems to be in this market environment, these are without a doubt in play. In play. All right, let's go back to some large caps here and quickly touch on those. CVX, Chevron, trading up again today about 50 cents, although interestingly enough, it hasn't taken out the high pivot from yesterday. Here's the high pivot from yesterday. If you draw a trend line right there, you can see it actually touched it, maybe pierced it by a couple pennies, but it hasn't been able to really bust through that level. Nonetheless, still a very nice move on Chevron. Exxon's trading up a little bit as well. Those two stocks continue to show some strength today on the back of oil getting a bounce. Earlier today, oil was down, and then we saw a little bit of an uptick in oil throughout the course of the morning into the early afternoon, and ever since then, you could see Chevron started out negative and then slowly moved up with oil. So again, oil moving up is good for stocks like Chevron and Exxon. Has really been a catalyst here. In terms of financials were stronger earlier. They have weakened a little bit from the morning session. A good example would be Goldman Sachs here. Goldman initially opened higher and pushed up nicely, was up $1 and change near the all-time, well, I should say all-time, double top 52-week high from not too long ago. You can see it very nicely here on the chart. Didn't quite get there, but again, has weakened since then, as you can see on the charts, and has come back in. And this is actually a bearish pattern, too. If you take this down move and these inside action, this is a little bit of a triangular pattern right here, which will be interesting to see which way it breaks out into the close, if it does break out into the close. All right, so that's another one just to keep an eye on into the end of the day. Amazon has earnings on Thursday after the close. That stock is down 75 cents. Not much action there. Very, very kind of neutralish price action. With the Nasdaq slightly lower, and again, Nasdaq, as I said, is down. Baidu's down $1, Google's down 6.5, and Apple's down about 3 and change on the day, along with Amazon down 75 cents. While the S&P again is flat, and the Dow, because key Dow components are up, that index is up. Remember, the Dow only is made up of 40 stocks, so if you just get a couple decent moves out of a couple stocks on earnings, the Dow will be up just because of that. Like IBM, for instance, IBM is up today $1.88. That probably right there is 10 points in the Dow. So, I mean, one stock in the Dow, because it's such a small index or ratio of stocks, it has a lot of play off of one or two stocks out there that they're up. All right, let's see what else we have here. Anything else on the radar? I'm just kind of scanning through. I think that's about it for me. I'm not really seeing too much else here. JPM is up 14 cents, and let's just take a look at Caterpillar here. Oh, DuPont I wanted to mention today. We'll jump over to DuPont. DuPont had a nice gap up today and collapsed down and then went sideways here. Now, first of all, it was a great gap fill right there. I mean, that was just a great play and gap fill for a bounce on an intraday trade. But just the fact that this thing has now gone sideways after such a big reversal. If you look at the daily chart, it was at 52-week highs, actually all-time highs up here. This is probably the beginning of a bigger pullback. Look for a retrace the next few days up. If you get that, look to short it as a swing trade. Look for that as a very good, solid swing trade setup if at that price pattern and time formations do form. All right, guys, that's all for today. Keep an eye on those Chinese profitable plays. They have a lot of potential upside if they start to squeeze up. A lot of shorts in those, and those are kind of in my favorite range right now. So we'll keep you guys posted, and I will go from there. Take care, guys.